The story begins in a small, dusty town, where amidst broken houses and narrow streets lived a boy named Ethan Miller. The walls of his home were cracked, but his dreams touched the skies. Ethan's childhood was far from easy. His father worked as a laborer in a small factory. His mother cleaned other people's homes, and Ethan didn't even have enough clothes to wear a clean shirt every day. But there was a certain light in his eyes, a spark that could outshine any diamond. While other kids spent their evenings playing outside, Ethan would sit beside his father's old radio, listening to stories about the world. Stories of people who had risen from nothing, who had turned their dreams into reality. Maybe that's where the fire inside him began. The fire that whispered, "One day I'll make something big out of my life." Every morning Ethan sold newspapers before heading to school, and every night he'd fall asleep with his homework half done. His life felt like a constant race, one he refused to lose even though poverty kept pulling him back at every turn. Sometimes when he couldn't pay his school fees, he was made to stand outside the class. Sometimes he went to bed hungry, but despite everything he always wore a smile. He would tell his mother, "Mom, this time will pass too." His mother knew her son didn't have money, but he was rich in his mindset. As the years passed, Ethan grew older, and so did the fire within him. He realized that being poor wasn't the real problem. Having a poor mindset was. He decided he would change his circumstances no matter how long it took. But time isn't easy to conquer. He wanted to go to college, but his family couldn't afford it, and his father didn't have the strength to help. So Ethan made a decision. He would earn his own way. He started selling water bottles on the streets, washing dishes in cafes, and delivering newspapers on buses. Yet, he never stopped studying. He often said, "I won't let my dreams die of hunger." At the city college, when Ethan listened to the conversations of rich kids, a fire of jealousy burned inside him. But instead of destroying him, it pushed him harder. While others listened to music, Ethan listened to motivational podcasts. When others relaxed, he wrote notes. Slowly, his results began to shock everyone. He started topping his classes. But life had more tests planned for him. His father fell seriously ill, and all the household expenses landed on Ethan's shoulders. Now he had two choices: quit studying or face everything and move forward. Ethan chose the second path. He worked nights as a delivery boy, attended classes during the day, and read books in the library before sunrise. Every day, he told himself, "This pain is shaping my worth." His dream was to one day build his own company, a place where no poor person would ever have to feel ashamed of their situation. He started getting into technology, learning everything he could from the internet. Even without money, he bought an old laptop on credit. That laptop became his greatest weapon. On it, he learned to code, to design, and to lay the foundation of his dream. But every time life gave him a little push forward, a new setback appeared. One day, his laptop was stolen. That day, he sat on the side of the road for hours, tears in his eyes, fire in his heart. But that night, he told himself, "If my dream has been stolen from my hands, I'll rewrite it with my blood." From that day on, Ethan worked harder than ever. Days and nights blurred together. He didn't talk much. He just did. He started taking small freelance projects, building websites for clients, and gradually his work began to get noticed. He used to say, "I may not have money, but I have time, and I won't waste it." His income began to grow, and for the first time he rented a new house for his mother. The tears in her eyes that day were worth more to Ethan than any medal in the world. But this was just the beginning. Ethan was no longer working only for himself. He was working for everyone who had ever been beaten down by life. He realized that poverty doesn't kill dreams. Giving up does. He formed a small team and started a mobile app development company. But the business world was ruthless. His first company failed miserably, his partner betrayed him, and everything collapsed again. All he had left was debt and broken dreams. For a few days, he stayed silent. Then one morning, he looked at himself in the mirror and said, "Ethan, either you'll break or you'll become the storm." And this time, he chose to become the storm. He started again. No money, no support, but with experience and resilience. He reconnected with old clients, learned new technologies, and began working on a fresh idea. He pushed himself to the limit, coding for 18 hours straight, surviving on bread and sleeping just a few hours a night. His mother would tell him, "Son, don't tire yourself out." Ethan would smile and reply, "Mom, the fire that burns inside me doesn't get tired." Slowly, his new app began to attract attention. A few investors noticed his potential. For the first time in his life, Ethan felt his hard work was finally paying off. He told himself, "Now it's my time." But just when everything seemed to be falling into place, life struck again. His father passed away. Ethan was shattered, but he whispered through his tears, "Dad, I won't let you down. You may be gone, but your dream is now my mission." He came out stronger, sharper, and more determined than ever. Ethan was no longer just a dreamer. He had become a warrior who had learned to turn pain into power. He understood that true wealth doesn't start with money. It starts with mindset. Every failure was now a lesson, every struggle a teacher, and that's where his real journey began. He came up with a brand new idea, one that combined technology with human values. He wanted his company not just to make profits, but to create opportunities, so that no one would have to leave their dreams halfway like he almost did. He gave everything he had to this vision, and this time fortune stood beside him. The company started to grow, clients increased, the team expanded, and Ethan finally felt he was walking the right path. Ethan was now standing at that turning point of life where poverty was no longer his weakness. It had become his greatest strength. His company was growing steadily, his ideas were being recognized, and his team had begun to believe in him completely. His days and nights were now consumed by coding, meetings, and new projects. But like every successful person, Ethan too was haunted by one deep question. Would he truly make his mark in the world, or would this dream remain incomplete like all the others? One day, he received a call from a major investment firm asking him to come in for a meeting. When he entered the sleek conference room, the men sitting across the table smirked after hearing about his humble background. One of them said, "Boys like you dream big, but very few ever make it happen." Ethan looked them straight in the eyes and calmly said, Sir, I don't just dream, I keep my dreams awake." The room went silent, and that very day Ethan received his first ever investment, a $1 million deal. That moment became the turning point of Ethan's life. He turned to his team and said, "From today, there's no looking back." His work began to attract clients from around the world, and soon he was collaborating with major projects in Silicon Valley. The title CEO now proudly stood next to his name. Yet deep down, Ethan knew that true wealth wasn't what sat in the bank. It was what lived in the heart. He decided to dedicate a part of his company's profits to support the education of underprivileged children. His dream was simple. No child should have to quit school just because they couldn't afford to pay for it. Gradually, Ethan's company, Dreamrise Technologies, started gaining global recognition. Media outlets began running stories about him. From homeless to CEO. People watched his videos, listened to his interviews, and drew inspiration from his journey. But what truly stood out was that success never changed him. He was still the same simple boy who once sold newspapers on the streets. Only now he had become a symbol of hard work and hope. One day, while driving through his old neighborhood, Ethan saw a young boy selling newspapers just like he once did. He walked up to him and asked, "Do you go to school?" The boy looked down and said softly, "No, sir. My mother can't afford it." Ethan smiled, placed his hand gently on the boy's head, and said, "Don't worry about the money anymore. Just focus on your studies." In that moment, Ethan realized that true happiness doesn't come from wealth, but from the act of helping someone else stand tall. Time went by, and his company's graph kept climbing higher. Every month, every year brought new milestones. Within a few years, DreamRise was valued in the billions. Ethan was listed among the top 100 young entrepreneurs of the world. But for him, the greatest moment wasn't the awards nor the headlines. It was the day he handed his mother the keys to a new house, a house he had personally designed. It was grand, beautiful, and filled with warmth. He smiled and said, "Mom, this isn't just my dream. It's ours." And as his mother's eyes welled up with tears of joy, Ethan felt something deeper than pride. Peace.